Hi guys, guess what? It's me again. But of course it is. What else would I show? Whatever. So this video is going to be very quick, I hope, and it's just to show you a few simple tips about the machine. So I've already got the machine threaded with red thread, both the bobbin and the upper thread, and I'm going to show you the basics of, how to sew. I have fabric here that I'm going to use. It's just white. I folded it in half because it was too big. What you do when you want to sew is you put your fabric underneath your presser foot. There's little red lines on the presser foot that tell you where you start sewing and where you're going to sew. It's the line in the middle that you want, and then the lines on the edge tell you where your stitch is going to start. When you're ready to stitch, you then put your presser foot down. Now is when you can put your foot on the pedal. So my presser foot is down, my speed is set to maximum, but remember, I can, just like when we use the paper sewing, I can put my foot down at a smaller amount and it'll go slower. So I'm going to sew forwards. Now, first tip, every single time you start sewing, you need to do the equivalent of a knot. Now, on the machine, the way we do that is by using the back stitch. You see the U-turn button there? It's right here. Looks like a U-turn. You use that to make your machine go backwards. Now I'm going to show you how to do that. Ignore my messy backdrop there. But what I do is I sew forwards a little bit to start. Then I hit the U-turn button and I put my foot down and it goes backwards. And basically what you're doing is sewing over what you just sewed. Press it again to turn it off, and then I sew my project. Just like with all of the other machines, or when we're doing the paper sewing, I can put my needle down to turn corners. But there's an easier way to do it. This button here that looks like a needle with an arrow on either side of it, if I press that every single time I stop, my needle will already be down. So you might be saying, well, Mrs. G, then why did you make us practice putting the needle down? Well, because no, not really. Because I felt like it. No, not really. Because I thought it was a neat skill to practice. Yep. So I'm making little, twirlies here. And then I'm going to go around, and I come to the end of my fabric here, and then I'm going to hit the back stitch button. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Now, instead of having to get my scissors out, which I have right here, because I haven't lost them this time, I'm going to press the scissor button. Now this doesn't always work, but when it does, there's a little razor blade inside the machine that comes out and cuts the string for you. So I put my presser foot up and I pull the fabric away. And look, I sewed stitches. Yeah! Now a couple other things you want to know about your machine. So, okay. That's nice and bright-ish, I think. I can never tell. Alright. So, I'm going to tell you about these buttons here. That's the U-turn button. You're not going to use the stop button or the start button here until we're using fancy stitches. That will be a whole different video. Fix, you can have that turned on or off. I don't care. The scissor button we use at the end of our stitches. This is the needle up or down button. And as you probably already know, this is how you adjust the speed. Now over here on the screen, which I may have to turn, no, that doesn't work. Now, like I was saying, over here on the screen we have a couple of other things. So I'm going to use my scissors, or a pencil, as a pointer this time. So this here is what you use to tell how fast your machine is set to. Don't touch these buttons here. These buttons here adjust your tension and your stitch width, and you don't want to do that. This tells you what stitch we're doing, and this shows you what stitch we're doing. Now if you pick a fancy stitch and it changes this letter here, that means you should be using a different presser foot. Don't worry about that. This little arrow here tells us that the needle will be down when we stop. This, like I said, now here it says woven medium. So that's telling me I should be using the, ooh, I didn't even have that on the screen. Here. Up here says woven medium, which tells me the machine is set for that kind of fabric. Now I have woven light. So what I'm going to do is press the button here. And then if you look, it's got different options of different kinds of fabric. Stretchy fabric, woven fabric. Most of you will either have woven fabric or stretchy fabric. Don't worry about leather or vinyl because there's special needles for that, and We don't want to go there. For techniques, don't worry about it, but just make sure it's set to seam or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can go back. Now, these buttons here are used to change the different stitches the slow way. You don't need to touch those right now. Don't worry about program or favorites or settings. This is to go where we pick the fancy stitches, but again, that's a video for another time. So those are my top tips for the machine. I hope you've learned how to sew on the machine and a couple things about the different buttons. Hopefully I've covered everything. It's only been a couple minutes, but should be good.